A lot of times when I'm working with first-time home buyers, they'll ask me questions like, what should I look for when I'm buying a house? Or how do I know if this is a good house to buy? Of course, the common wisdom would be, well, you gotta buy a house with great bones. But what the heck is a house with good bones? How do you know what to look for to find a house with good bones? Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Bald Prairie Real Estate. If you're new here, my name is Matthew Pfeiffer. I'm a real estate agent in Regina, Saskatchewan. I like to educate you all about real estate. Now I focus on Canadian real estate topics in the Canadian real estate market, but these educational videos I do will help anybody who's thinking about buying a house. Wait, and you said you were thinking about buying a house this year, right? That's why you clicked on this video, you're trying to learn more? Hold up, you're thinking about buying a house this month? Well, that's awesome. Let's get you educated on some of the most expensive repairs in a house and how to find a house with good bones. So you can find that great house, maybe needs a little renovation work, but it's not gonna have problems like a bad foundation or bad wiring. You're gonna know what to look for, how to find those things even before you put an offer in on a house. As always though, I like to start these videos off with another terrible joke. And this one comes from a viewer. I love it when you guys send me jokes. Put them in the comments below if you got good jokes. I like using them. How does the ocean greet the beach? With a wave. Thank you, Dan, for another terrible joke. Let's get into the video. Let's start off by talking about the heating, the ventilation, and the cooling in your house, otherwise known as HVAC. We're gonna start off talking about natural gas furnaces. That's what you're most commonly gonna see in houses. Not all the time though. You will see things like boiler systems or electric baseboard heating, but I'm gonna talk specifically about natural gas furnaces. You wanna make sure that's running and running well because you of course have issues with carbon monoxide and fire hazards if they are not running correctly. Natural gas furnaces come in kind of two different varieties, mid-efficient and high efficient. If it's got a metal chimney sticking out of it, metal pipe going up the chimney, that's gonna be a mid-efficient furnace. And right away, that should make you run away. There's a lot of good things about mid-efficient furnaces. Obviously, they're not as efficient as a high-efficient furnace, but you want somebody to go through it and inspect it fully. I would go in with the assumption if it's a mid-efficient furnace that it's probably nearing end of life. And if you do your home inspection and find out that it's been maintained really well, and it's still continuing to function and it's going to continue to function for a long time, call that a win. These typically can go easily for 30 years if they're maintained properly. So if one was put in 15 or 20 years ago, that's not the worst thing in the world. Of course, you are going to spend a little more money in things like your electricity costs and your natural gas that is going to be not as efficient as a high efficient furnace. But they're not a bad thing. They wouldn't be a reason I wouldn't buy a house. So just make sure you inspect that properly. Go in with the assumption that it might be near end of life because a lot of these things were put in the 70s and 80s and are nearing end of life. But if it's not, that's awesome. How about high efficient furnaces? How do you know what a high efficient furnace looks like? Well, you're gonna have plastic pipes coming out of it. If it's got plastic coming out the top, that's a high efficient furnace. They never made mid efficient furnaces with metal chimneys or going out through the chimney, and they're always gonna ventilate out the side of the house, not up the chimney. If it's got black plastic piping, that's ABS. Typically those were done in the early 2000s, whereas more modern furnaces will have white PVC style piping. So that's how you can tell right off the bat what generation of high efficient furnace you've got. The black pipes are a little bit older, typically early 2000s, whereas the high efficient ones you see today have white plastic PVC style piping. Those are generally more like 2010, a little bit newer. So don't stress out though if it is not a high efficient furnace. Like I said, those things easily go for 30 or more years potentially. High efficient furnaces don't have as long a lifespan actually. Typically about 15 to 25 years out of those things. What you want to do when you take a look at it is identify what type of furnace you're dealing with. High efficient, awesome. But also check, see if there's a tag maybe on the gas line or an installation date on it. See how long that thing has been running. Sewer line problems are something we see a lot in my market, so we look through them very thoroughly. It may not be an issue for your market. Ask your agent whether things like sewer or some of the things I've talked about, shingles, foundation, stuff like that, whether those are problems for your specific market. If you're wanting to know what types of questions you should ask a real estate agent before you hire them, because I think you should ask those questions, kind of interview the agent, got a video right here you can check out, and that's going to give you some great questions to ask those agents. But sewers themselves, like I said, a problem in my market. We have to run cameras down them because we want to check and make sure that they don't have things like corrosion and tree roots. That's very much a problem with older sewer lines. Typically they're made out of things like cast iron and copper. We see them corrode, tree roots growing in them, causes all different kinds of problems with blockages. So how do you check for this visually when you're in a house? Go in the mechanical room and look for the main stack. Usually you're gonna find it there. It's where all the plumbing in the house is gonna come collect together into one pipe, down to the basement floor and out to the front of the house through the sewer. So check for that, see what type of material it is. If it's cast iron or copper, assume, much like an older furnace, that it may need to be replaced. When you do your home inspection and it comes out that it's perfectly fine, awesome, that's fantastic, but just go in with an assumption that could be a problem. If you see though black plastic piping all the way down to the floor, sometimes you see it replaced like halfway, but there's still cast iron at the floor. But if this is replaced all the way to the floor, it's been retrofitted in an old house or new houses, this is the standard. ABS piping is fantastic because we don't have issues with corrosion, obviously. And as far as I know, there's been no problems with tree roots growing into those pipes as well. They do have specific vulnerabilities though. They're all glued together, so sometimes those joints can come disconnected. As well, this is more so in new construction when they're backfilling around the basement. Sometimes heavy machinery will run over one of those pipes and actually squish it and crack it. So you may need to have a sewer professional come through and look at that house. Again, ask your realtor if that's applicable in your market. The shingles on a house are obviously very important, and it's something you can easily check right as you walk up the house. In fact, as soon as you get out of the car, this would be one of the first things I'd be looking at, is taking a peek to see what the shingle condition is like. Walk the whole outside of the house, look at all the exterior features as well as the shingles before you even go inside of it. You want to look for things like, are the shingles peeling? Are they starting to come off? Are they showing age? You know, you can see they're clearly worn. This is very visually apparent. It doesn't, take a lot to see whether the shingles are in good shape or bad shape, but also walk around the entire house, because sometimes people only replace like half of a roof. I've seen this before. I got caught on this once actually. We drove up to a house, shingles looked fantastic on the front, and I didn't look at them on the backside till after we were going through it a second time. And I noticed that the shingles on the backside were terrible. This person only replaced half a roof. Now, replacing your shingles easily can cost thousands of dollars. I don't think you're gonna replace shingles anything under $5,000 having it professionally installed. And all of this depends very much on the size of the house, the pitch of the roof, how many valleys you've got, all that type of stuff is very dependent for shingles. And you can put them in yourself, absolutely. And you're gonna save a bunch of money if you did that. The problem then becomes, a lot of times the shingle manufacturers won't honor the warranty on those shingles if they weren't installed by a professional trade. So check into that as well if you are thinking about doing it yourself. See if the manufacturer is gonna honor that warranty. But bad shingles result in bad problems. That's when you get things like water problems in your house. If you're in colder climates in Canada, you get ice damming problems, peeling shingles back, all that type of stuff. And of course, once you've got water intrusion into your house, then you're talking about mold problems. And mold is one of the scariest things you can deal with in a house, because you almost never find it all. You'll peel back something, find a little mold, and then it's somewhere else. So having good shingles in a house, I think, is absolutely critical to finding a good house to buy. Besides foundation repairs, windows are probably one of the most expensive upgrades that you would have to do to a house, or repairs you'd have to. Easily, you could spend $10,000 or more on windows. In fact, I've seen bills of $25,000 and $30,000 to replace windows. So what do you look for? How do you know whether you've got good windows? There's a couple of things you can check out. First off is the frame of the window. Are they wood frame windows? And that actually usually doesn't bother me, but that's what you'll see in older houses. Look though and see what type of material they've got. If it's wood frame, is it rotted out? Look for that all around the whole outside of the foundation, or the frame of the window, I mean. Newer windows are white PVC frames. Now, when you see windows, look and see if they've just done an insert or if they've replaced the whole frame. Replacing the whole frame is much more expensive and a much better upgrade. So look what type of material the windows are. But also, double pane versus triple pane makes a big difference. How the heck do you tell the difference between the two? It's a piece of glass. How do you see? Well, you see right here, the reflection from my light. Use that to your advantage. Grab your phone and shine it against the window with the flashlight on. I'm gonna show you a picture, I'm gonna put it up. It's a little tougher to see in this photo, but it's clear as day when you do it in real life. Look how many reflections come off that flashlight. 2 reflections, double pane window. See 3 reflections of your flashlight, triple pane window. Now, double pane windows aren't bad. They are less efficient and they're not as quiet as a double pane window. Would that make me not buy a house? No, definitely not. Double pane windows are just fine. If I was replacing windows in a house, I would go triple pane personally because they're more efficient and because they're quieter, but they also take a long time to realize those benefits. Triple pane windows, absolutely over the lifetime of a window, will pay themselves off in energy efficiency, but we're talking 20 or maybe even 30 years potentially before you start seeing that kind of payback on them. So don't take out double pane windows to put in triple pane windows. But if you find a house, it's got retrofitted PVC triple pane windows, that is an awesome high quality upgrade. That's a house with good bones. A house with a bad basement or a bad foundation, definitely not a perfect house. But first-time homebuyers, they often stress out over trying to find that perfect house. In fact, I think it's one of the biggest mistakes that first-time homebuyers make. You want to know other mistakes they make? Well, you can check that out right here in my top 6 first-time homebuyer mistakes. Foundations though, they're really important in my market because in Regina, we have really bad soil to build in. And because of that, we've got really bad foundations. There's a whole bunch of things we have to do to secure basement walls in this city that I don't believe are done anywhere else in Canada. If you came to Regina, if you were not from here and you saw our basements, you'd probably turn and run the heck away because of the situation in our basements. I'm gonna put up some photos, you can check those out to see how ugly our basements really are. Now, of course, you can't have a good house with good bones if it's got a bad foundation. So what do you look for in a house? Well, make sure the floors are level. I think that's a really important one. And it can be pretty easy to tell. Plop down a laser level in the middle of the house. If you don't have one, your agent might have one. Some of them are bringing along. But a simple solution, just bring like a marble or a tennis ball or something like that and see if it rolls away on you. Lip chap, something after you have with me, just put that on the floor, see if it rolls away. Walk the whole floor, front to back, down the hallway, through the living room, that type of thing. See if you feel like it's leaning one way. Another thing you see a lot of times in houses, the floor feels like it's kind of crowning in the middle. That's actually a fairly common problem because the teleposts along the main beam in the basement are just pushed up a little bit high. You bring those down, you level the floor off, you're all good. Another thing you can look for is around door frames inside the house and the doors themselves. The doors close, they just kind of shut themselves because the house is leaning just a little bit or that door frame is leaning a little bit. But also look for stress cracks around the foundation. You'll see them, around the door frame itself. You'll see kind of the angle cracks coming out. Those ones are ones you want to look out for. Those are stress cracks. Straight lines in the middle of walls or even sometimes on the ceiling, I'm not quite as worried about because usually straight line cracks, that's often something as simple as drywall tape just peeling back a little bit, super easy fix. But the angle ones, those are ones I'm looking for. The foundation of your house, that's obviously extremely important. Having a house with good bones, those are some tips you can use to look for a good foundation in a house. The electrical system in your house, kind of like the sewer, is a little bit tougher to see whether it's a problem or not, but there are some things you can look at that'll give you an idea before you even write an offer on this house, whether this is a good system or not. So go downstairs, look at the electrical panel right off the bat. Again, that'll probably be in the mechanical room, big box, all the wires are coming into it. Sometimes they're in bedrooms and basements as well. It just depends how it was set up, but look for the electrical panel. First off, look and see, is there slots in that electrical panel? Is there space available or not? Now, if it's full, it doesn't mean don't buy the house, but it just means if you were to add additional electrical outlets, maybe you're renovating a basement or you want to do like a hot tub or something like that, if that panel is full, you won't have the ability to do that without adding a sub panel onto it. So look for that. Also look how many amps that panel can provide. There'll be a breaker switch, a big one, usually in the top corner of it, and it'll have a number written on it. You'll see things like 70, 100, 125, even more sometimes. 100 amps is the standard for today in most houses. Newer houses, you are seeing larger panels, but 100 amp is kind of the typical standard. Older houses, specifically in the 50s and 60s, you are seeing 70 amp panels. 70 amps is just generally not going to be sufficient for modern usage. So you're going to want to get that upgraded. Again, this could be a couple $1,000s easily to replace a panel. As well, insurance companies typically don't like those 70 amp panels. They want something that's more sufficient for modern standards. So look at that panel, see what type you're dealing with. Next off, while you're there, look at the wiring, because this is something that people get really nervous about, and that is aluminum wiring. It's gonna say right on that wiring, generally ALU or some variation of ALUR or aluminum right on the wiring. Aluminum wiring gets people nervous. Now, before you get freaked out, there are some things that are good and bad, I guess, to think about when it comes to aluminum wiring. Again, I wouldn't run away from a house if it's aluminum wiring, but I'd be much more cautious on that. Aluminum was used typically in the late 60s to early 70s. So anywhere from about 65 to 1972, 73 range. That's the type of range you were seeing aluminum wiring in houses. It was used because at the time copper got really expensive and aluminum became cheaper. Now, aluminum wiring is softer than copper wiring. So what ended up happening is sometimes electricians would over tighten the connections and crush that wire. That could cause problems. As well, that wire loosens up over time because it's softer. And so inside those connection boxes, sometimes it comes loose, and that's when you have vulnerabilities to arcing. That's why aluminum gets that bad rap. But if it's been maintained properly, generally it's not a big deal. So you're gonna have to have an electrical professional come in and take a look at that if you're dealing with a house with aluminum wiring. As well, aluminum carries current a little bit differently. They had to go with different gauge wires, and sometimes very low quality light fixtures, things like that, were not designed to run on aluminum wiring and can cause problems. Now, generally, anything you buy in like a high quality light store isn't gonna be a problem. They'll be rated for aluminum wiring, but if you buy something on, say, like Alibaba, that might not be rated for aluminum wiring. So if you're dealing with aluminum wiring, you have to know what you're dealing with and what are potential problems. Again, have your home inspector go through it and explain any potential problems, or an electrician go through it and talk you through so you know what you're dealing with. The big no-no though, if you see knob and tube wiring in a house, I'll put a photo up of that so you can see it. Why is knob and tube wiring a problem? It's not designed for modern electronics. It doesn't have ground wires. It's not designed to carry the current like we have today. It was designed way back when we had very limited electrical needs in a house. So knob and tube wiring, that would be something where I'd be looking to replace that right away. I wouldn't want to buy a house and deal with knob and tube wiring unless I knew I was going to replace it. There you have it. That's what you need to know about buying a house, how you find a house that's got good bones, got a good structure, all that kind of stuff. Follow those tips, follow that guide. You will find a fantastic house. Who cares if it's got that ugly, terrible kitchen or awful paint, flooring, whatever. You can change that because you've got a good house to start with. You've kind of got that good canvas, or like they say, the house with good bones, start with that. I'll take an ugly kitchen in a great house over a fantastic kitchen in a bad house any day of the week. Now, if you're a first-time home buyer, you probably have a few more questions. Guess what? I got you covered. Right here, my first-time home buyer playlist answers all the questions you've got as a first-time home buyer. One of them you probably got is, what's going on with the Canadian real estate market? Right here, my most recent Canadian real estate market update. I've now got on there the quote-unquote biometer. It's gonna tell you whether you should buy a house in that market or not. As always, guys, thanks very much for watching.